What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the HBCU Game Day Celebration Bowl post-game show. I'm SJG. Got our guy Josh with us as well, and we are just getting back across town from that delightful Atlanta traffic, leaving the Mercedes-Benz Stadium where the Celebration Bowl just took place. Jackson State University, if you haven't seen the news already, Jackson State took care of business, finally got the Celebration Bowl monkey off its back with a 28-7 win over South Carolina State University, the MEAC champs. I've been lucky enough, as I said yesterday, to see kind of all of these Celebration Bowl games from start to finish. And I can say unequivocally that it was the most boring Celebration Bowl of all time, if you're not a Jackson State fan. Josh, but don't let me be too influential right now. It was your first Celebration Bowl experience, Josh. Yeah. What has it been like for you the last 24, 30 hours?
I ain't gonna lie, it was definitely fun. Like, just being able to see like how much people care about like their schools and how like deep like it actually is within like the two schools and how much they love like their team. And so especially Jackson State with TC Taylor, like it's one of the craziest things I've seen. Like whenever they made the hire to bring him in, me and you was actually at the MEAC SWAC when they was chanting TC after they got the win, and it was just so ironic today how after they finally get that Celebration Bowl win, they were chanting again TC. So like that was like a super cool moment for me just to see something like that. So like my overall experience, it was pretty fun. It was definitely fun.
Yeah, for sure. You make a great point. It was really kind of a full circle moment for TC Taylor. I know on Friday, he talked about, he'd actually been to the Celebration Bowl 4 times. This is actually his 4th time. So he came as an assistant in North Carolina Central back in 2016, where the previous most boring Celebration Bowl was, but at least somebody threw a helmet in that game. And then, of course, for the 2 Jackson State losses over the last couple of seasons back with underneath Deion Sanders. But as you say, that MEAC SWAC Challenge, that was his first game as the head coach, and he took over the program, and you had that full circle moment with folks chanting TC. And then also, I know as well, on Friday at the press conference, he talked about how he was he's seen the confetti fall on other people every other time he's been here, and that this was a time for him. That's cool. He was hoping to see it. And so today, when we actually did get some confetti going down, it definitely, as you hear the chants, it definitely made a lot of sense as to the emotions that were there, and he actually talked about it in a press conference as well. But again, for everybody who didn't get a chance to watch the game, we talk about the game a little bit. So Jackson State came in, and again, I think it's important for folks to remember, they only had a week prior to, they played less than a week ago, the SWAC championship game. We had South Carolina State. They haven't played in nearly a month. Yeah. And you could tell kind of early on, it seemed that the rust was kind of there as we welcome in the third member of the gang today, just fresh. That's the shoulders off, man. Fresh out that ATL traffic. That's right. Wilton Jackson himself. We were just talking. We were talking about obviously the win for Jackson State and TC Taylor. Just your overall thoughts on the game. I did say that it's the most boring Celebration Bowl if you're not a Jackson State fan.
Well, even as a Jackson State fan, but still looking at it collectively, like it was a game that we thought was obviously going to be much closer. I personally thought it was going to be a much more competitive game, but Jackson State really. When you look at this game, they pretty much did exactly what they had been doing all season. Making sure they making a statement in the first half of their game, going up, getting those 2 touchdowns in the first half, and then in the second half. For me, I personally thought to myself, I said, okay, surely South Carolina State's not going to lay down. This is a team that's going to fight back. Obviously we've talked all week about Chinnis Berry being, the head coach there, the players that they have, Eric Phoenix at quarterback, the dynamic players they have on defense. You really thought that this was going to be a much more competitive competitive game.
Yeah,
but
I did.
again, Jackson State just really flexed this muscle, and I'm glad. And Steve, you were in the press conference when someone asked the question about has the physicality shifted between the MEAC and the SWAC. I don't know if I can fully say that yet. It's been 2 times, and obviously FAMU did it last year, and now Jackson State. But the tide is certainly changing. Because Jackson State pretty much had its way with South Carolina State in every aspect in the second
Yeah,
half.
it definitely looked like it. I mean, all the way up to the fourth quarter, I don't think South Carolina State had completed a third down the whole game. And that was kind of rare with the escapability that Eric Phoenix has from getting out the pocket and making plays down the field.
Right.
It just seemed like nothing was working for him. It was kind of that's crazy to see.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and and somebody asked in the chat why I said it was the most boring. And again, shout out to Jackson State. They did what they were supposed to do and won this game. I'm just, the Celebration Bowl, this is the 9th one, and today's margin of victory tied the previous largest margin of victory, which was 21 points. And do you guys know when that was? You were in the press conference,
I was.
That was in 2021 where South Carolina State beat Jackson State by 21.
Crazy.
And also, some other notes as well. If you look at South Carolina State only scored 7 points a game, which, again, if you look at their scores within the MEAC and just all season, I think if you would have said South Carolina State is only scoring 7 points, I don't think a lot of people would have taken that bet.
No.
And so when I say it's the most boring, I mean, Celebration Bowl has been kind of back and forth for the most part. Even some of those A&T and Alcorn State games, they were back and forth.
Yep.
There really
High-scoring affairs too.
Yeah. There really was no back and forth in this one. And to be honest with you, it could have been worse early. It really could have been JSU by 40.
Yeah. It could have been. I mean, you talk about some of those opportunities. They had a field goal blocked in that game.
Yeah.
If they able to convert on some of those other third down opportunities, the way that they were going offensively, that probably would have led to some other scoring drives as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the MVP of the game offensively was quarterback Jacobian Morgan. Jackson State, as we talked about yesterday, Jackson State and South Carolina's philosophies have kind of shifted from the previous Celebration Bowl that they played in that Jackson State has been more of a running team, South Carolina State has been more of a passing team. Jacobian Morgan played an efficient game, hit some of his receivers, and really kind of broke things open with that touchdown pass. You guys were able to see that. It seemed kind of like that was kind of a turning point in the game.
That touchdown pass that he found with Isaiah Spencer, I mean, how he was, essentially that wide open, I just said to myself, my gosh. And TC Taylor, Coach Taylor talked about it in the press conference. Isaiah was the only thing that went wrong in that reception was you got to score the touchdown. And he got down to the 1 yard. I'm like, you should have just went on ahead and leaped in. But he found Isaiah Spencer, obviously Janalen Dupree, Jonas Fortillion. Most people may not remember or put enough emphasis on how his play has come through this season. Like, he started a couple games and then, of course, got hurt and then bounced back. Like, that guy is essentially a freak. Like, he had a one-handed touchdown in some of those early games of the season. And today, South Carolina State really had no answer for him at all.
Yeah, and as we're in the chat, you know what? We're going to keep it funky. We're going to keep it real. It's the end of the season. Let's talk. So I see Sonic Boom C98. Prime game day show and love to JSU. Let's talk about that real quick. I'm sorry, y'all. Sir, look, it is what it is. Everybody thinks we hate their team. And, it kind of is what it is. But I will say I did appreciate at the beginning of the season, we have Swag Media Day, MEAC Media Day, all these media days. And TC Taylor, at the end of it, he made sure to say that he appreciated the work that we do and everything like that and what we do to promote the game. So if TC say we're good, we good. You can say whatever you want. You're still watching. But we'll talk about Jackson State as well. Irv Mulligan. I know we talked about it on Friday. He brought the intensity very early. He brought the intensity starting. It didn't even start in the game. It started actually on Thursday night.
Yes.
When, and
Eric Phoenix.
he and Eric Phoenix, kind of going back and forth on the stage at the Celebration Bowl Circle of Champions. And he kind of he kind of got active and but he backed it up with his play.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, and also in the press conference, he talked about how he talked a lot of stuff, but he backed it up. Yeah. Again, we go back to that MEAC SWAC challenge. He kind of was a breakout player in that game. He's a guy from South Carolina. Who he said that South Carolina State didn't recruit him. He went to Wofford, and then transferred to Jackson State afterwards. Yep. And talk about Mulligan and what he's done. You start off, Josh, and then we'll
seeing Irv Mulligan for the second time, because I was at that MEAC SWAC challenge last year when they played South Carolina State. When I seen him at South Carolina State at the MEAC SWAC challenge, I was like, oh yeah, he's going to be a difference maker for this Jackson State team. They're going to be able to run the ball, move the ball down the field, and I was like, okay, cool. But seeing him again today, oh man, he was a problem for that South Carolina State defense. Even though South Carolina State defense we was questioning about the front seven that they have, the linebackers that they have, how are they going to be able to slow him down? It was a lot for the South Carolina State defense, because once he got going, then they had the other backs going in it as well. It wasn't just the Irv Mulligan show. It was a committee that was helping him out. And then also the quarterback play, making big-time throws on third down, making sure that he finds his open receivers, making tight window throws. It was a great offensive game from Jackson State, just in my personal opinion.
Absolutely. You talk about Irv Mulligan. I've had a chance to kind of watch him up close in person, having gone to Jackson State's practices, having a chance to interview him for a story that I wrote. I mean, this guy, he plays with a different level of tenacity. When he's on the field, if I'm a linebacker, and I know it's my job if I was a linebacker to tackle him, but he runs in such a way that, he's not just running, obviously he's running physically, but he's running with a different chip on his shoulder. Like if you guys know his story, like some of his family members have been killed by gun violence, and some of the things that he's seeing, growing up in Beaufort, South Carolina, and so he runs with a different fire, a different passion, and you can see it every time he runs the ball. Like even today, I can't tell you how excited I was as a reporter, as a journalist, to see his matchup between him and Aaron Smith from South Carolina State.
It was a battle.
You're talking about an Aaron Smith, and that's essentially, Chennis Berry's duplicate almost, right? And a very physical Irv Mulligan who likes to run the ball downhill, get in your face, give you like the rah-rah here and there. And so you get this tenacity, this energy that just really just fuels Jackson State to be where it is. Like today, he didn't finish with 100 yards. The last, 5 or 6 games, he had about, at least 100 yards or more in a game. And so today he didn't necessarily have to get 100 yards, to your point of there was a committed effort on the run game, not just from him, but then also from Jacobian Morgan. As much as Jacobian found his wide receivers on the field, he was also able to make some running plays for Jackson State's offense, and that was just a difference maker. But Jackson State, for sure, throughout this entire season, the rushing attack has been the edge, and the offense goes as far, for sure, as Irv Mulligan goes.
And talking about Irv Mulligan, the offense of Jackson State is amazing. But that defense is special.
Oh, yeah.
That defense is special. Like Steve said, South Carolina State's offense has been dominant all season.
Yeah.
They held them to 7 points.
Yeah, that's hard to believe. But in a way, it's hard to believe, because if you look back at like Jackson State's, a lot of their second half of the season, like last 6 or 7 games, they were shutting out opponents, in the second half, and more so specifically in the fourth quarter. If you didn't get it done in the first half or the first 3 quarters, you weren't going to pretty much get any points against them. And I remember sitting up here telling Simone, where she was sitting exactly where you were sitting on yesterday, and I said, if opponents didn't get points against Jackson State in the first half, they weren't going to get it. And look at, the first half, they didn't have anything. They didn't have any points. And to think that we would say right now that South Carolina State didn't get a first down to the second half, that Eric Phoenix didn't, throw for 300 yards, that KZ Adams and DeAndre Duhart didn't, explode for 150 plus yards on the ground, that Justin Brown or Caden High didn't have the phenomenal games they have been having all season. And to sit here and say that they didn't have any of that, I mean, I wouldn't have gambled on that.
And that was at that North Carolina Central game when they ran it up on North Carolina Central. I watched that game versus Morgan State with that great defense. That offense didn't look the same today.
No.
And that's just a shout out to that Jackson State defense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of the JSU defense, the young man, well, you have to remind me, the defensive MVP of the defensive line.
Jeremiah Williams.
Yeah. Really enjoyed his story. I had a chance to talk to him after the game briefly, and he's one of those. We talk about how the previous administration, Deion Sanders and staff who went on to Colorado, how they took so much with them, but he was actually one of the guys who was there for both of those SWAC championships, Celebration Bowl losses, and then he stayed with Jackson State with Coach T.C. Taylor, and he's been able to get that championship. He was very emotional about it and just very reflective about it, and just talk about him and how they really shut South Carolina State down. They had been an offensive juggernaut, but I know at one point, even into the second half, I think I saw something that said that Jackson State had more penalty yards than South Carolina State had total offense. So yeah, there were a lot of penalties.
That's crazy.
That's a Jackson State defensive line that's been active all season. And if it was ever a time to pick a game where you had your best game, if you're Jeremiah Williams, this was the game to have it. He was in the backfield a lot. Him and some others. Ashton Taylor, I think, came up with a big sack in that game as well. So, the goal was to obviously play gap sound football, and he talked about that in the press conference, making sure that he owned his gap, but more so than anything, not letting Eric Phoenix beat you, not only allowing him to sit in the pocket and make passes, but not allowing him to extend plays with his legs. Because how many times have we seen Eric Phoenix do that all season? So, when you have a defensive lineman like Jeremiah Williams, who is seeing what this moment looks like, having played in the Celebration Bowl, seeing the confetti fall on, obviously North Carolina Central in 2022, you don't want to have that feeling again. And so they got the job done today. They got pressure on Eric Phoenix on Stubblefield. It's just interesting to see where this team is right now and how much better they can be going forward.
Yeah, appreciate everybody who's watching. Please go ahead and hit that like button. It helps the chat tremendously, so please do that. Definitely, you look at South Carolina State. They have not played since, I believe it was November 21st. And then Jackson State just played last week.
Right.
This is the first time, and just for folks who don't know, the Celebration Bowl is usually played what would be next week, but they had to move up because of the college football playoff, which starts next week. So that decision was made, and it was controversial, and because the conversation from the beginning, and I've been one of those people that said I don't necessarily think it's fair that the MEAC has at least 2 extra weeks and sometimes 3 weeks, and early on in the game. And early on in the game's history for the, I think the MEAC won, 5 out of the first 6?
Yep.
That kind of, you can say there's a lot of different reasons to go in the game, and I'm not saying it's the reason, but I felt like it was a factor. This year, it's even bigger of a factor, but maybe, just maybe, it seemed like for South Carolina State, not to make excuses for them, maybe it worked out even less in their favor because, it seemed like every time you looked, there was a bulldog down.
Yep. It was several players that were cramped up. I think the one that really got to me when I started thinking about that concept, Steve, was when I saw Aaron Smith get cramped up on that run. It was like, I think, one of the jet sweep plays for Irv Mulligan. He was running to the sideline, and it was literally Aaron Smith running after him, and then he went down with the cramp. And I said to myself, I know that they had the proper rest, but this is one of those times where you start asking yourself, would you rather have those 2 weeks off or 2 to 3 weeks off, or would you, still want to have that edge from coming off of a game last week? And today, I think it was more so the fact that you would rather, specifically for Jackson State, you'd rather having, played in that SWAC championship game last week and kind of continue to build on that momentum going into the Celebration Bowl. But I think more than that too, Steve, is that I think it also depends on the team that you have, and it depends on coaching and which coach can make adjustments. And I think more than anything, if we were talking about another team here, could that have been the same situation where they played a game last week and they win this game, win the Celebration Bowl? We don't know. But I think that it was a combination of Jackson State really being on a hot ride and then also having those necessary adjustments from TC to make sure that Jackson State won the game.
And to piggyback off of what you said about Jackson State coming in with the momentum, see me, I'm more of a MEAC guy. But at the same time, I've been like, like I said, like Steve said, this is my first Celebration Bowl. So me from watching it in the years past, I remember last year with FAMU, I remember Musa, he started off a little bit slow.
Yep, he
and
did.
I remember Howard came out a little bit more hot.
Right.
So I felt like in the past, for me watching it in the past years, I'm like, I think the MEAC kind of got a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, I'm like, as a former player myself,
Yeah.
you kind of want to go into the game hot because it's like you have that momentum.
Yep. And you're still fresh. You've been in that mindset. It's like, think about it like this. Let's say if you were still playing football and you just got off Thanksgiving break. It's like, man, we had a game before Thanksgiving break. It's on Thanksgiving break. I had all my turkey, my ham, my chicken, my rolls, or whatever I eat for Thanksgiving. It's like, man, I get back to practice next week. I'm sluggish.
You got to rush it all. You got to get it all out.
And not only that, I don't have a game.
Exactly.
I'm just practicing. So we not really.
I'm talking about practice.
Yeah, practice. Not a game. Not a game. Practice.
So yeah, I think it definitely turning the tide. I think with the SWAC having that SWAC championship game, and whoever wins that game, I feel like whoever comes in hot, I feel like now they're going to have a little bit of an advantage because as we've seen today, that offense and that defense for Jackson State just looked a step ahead.
Yep.
It just looks a step ahead. And then, like you said, if you would have told me yesterday, hey, South Carolina State is not going to have a first down the whole first half of the game, I wouldn't have took it.
No.
I wouldn't have took it.
No.
I would not have took it. I don't think anybody would have took it watching this show. Y'all let me know in the comments. Would y'all have took that bet? Because I know me personally, I wouldn't have took it.
Nobody across America would have thought that South Carolina State would not have had a first down.
That was crazy.
And even to think that when you look at the performance from Eric Phoenix, no one thought that was going to happen.
No.
Like, I personally said to myself, with their offensive line, the talent that they had at their skill positions, there's no way they don't score at least 21 points. Like the score that I had gave for this game was 27-21 Jackson State with the advantage. I said to myself, they at least scored 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They scored 1 touchdown.
This is insane because to piggyback off of the game that I talked about when I was at that game whenever South Carolina State played North Carolina Central, the key factor in that game was Central could not get off the field on third down.
Yep.
Derek Phoenix rolling out the pocket, making plays on the run.
Stiff arming people.
Yeah, stiff arming people,
my gosh.
running over Central defenders. I'm like, man, is he Superman? Is he Josh Allen? I was like, okay.
He looked like that.
And then I remember to close the game out, I'm pretty sure it was a 3rd and 17. Picked it up on third down, he didn't pick it up. He got the 4th and inches, and then they ran the ball, got the first down, then they went on to score again at the end of the game. So, like you said, seeing them not pick up that first down, seeing them contain Eric Phoenix in the pocket, and making sure that the DBs did a great job as well. Because with him scrambling around all that time as a DB, that's more harder to just guard than just that single route because you got them shifty receivers. They going, they're going to go this way, they go that way.
Caden High and Justin Smith-Brown are some of the best receivers in the MEAC. They've been that way all season.
Yeah, man. So I'm in the comments, and GHZ28, you tripping? The mailman had too many days off.
Oh wow!
JSU.
He gonna respond to that if you see it.
I did not say that.
JSU was chopping wood and working. That's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
But that's kind of facts. Call
it how you see it.
The mailbox is empty. Well, I would say this. So I know it was kind of hard to hear. We were all on the field. Interesting comments from Coach T.C. Taylor. Usually very laid back, very reserved.
Yeah.
He came. I don't know. Maybe he was feeling the confetti. You know what I'm saying?
He as he should.
He popped the stuff. He said, they talk about going 1-0. They went 0-1.
He popped it. To all due respect, I mean, with all the talk that went on in that pregame with Irv Mulligan and Eric Phoenix, you just know that stuff like that is going to happen. I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with it. You won the game. You dominated the team that you said a lot of people thought they were going to score a lot of points. Shut that down. Offense moved the ball at will. I feel like, my personal opinion, whenever you win a game at this big of a caliber and shutting a team that dynamic down, I mean, pop it all you want. I ain't got no problem with it.
For sure. Every football team loves bulletin board material.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, and I can assure you, even before the interaction between Eric Phoenix and Irv Mulligan, Coach Taylor alluded to it in the press conference. he got tired, or not only him, but the players from Jackson State, they just got tired of hearing about South Carolina State's physicality, South Carolina State's, skill positions. I mean, we in the media, we even talked about both sides of, who has the skilled players, offensive line, defensive line, and they just got tired of hearing about it, and it was just more so the fact that at the end of the day, between the hashes on the field, the game has to still be played. And the game was played, and today it just favored Jackson State more than South Carolina State.
Yeah. I mean, just to touch on this again, just to kind of understand how we got here. Again, Eric Phoenix and those guys were really humming all season. But if you look at it, he hadn't played in a month because previously he got hurt at the Morgan State game. Now his backup came in and put up 50 pieces back to back. So you thought they would be good, but obviously they weren't playing Morgan State or Norfolk State. And so there's a lot there. You wonder if maybe he was 100%. But they did insert Stubblefield there, trying to get a spark as well. Yeah, man, but I think it was definitely a game that a lot of people didn't expect. A certain Simone Stanley forced me to pick this game yesterday against my will. And again, I think I said 34-27, something like that.
31-24.
Yeah, it might have been more than that. I was expecting offensive fireworks.
Yes.
And I think I wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
But, I think for sure there was a lot of excitement, a lot of energy. And I'll see if they've got the clip in the back to play it or not. But even last night at my hotel, I was going to pick up my DoorDash, and there was a group of the energy between these two schools, like it was palpable. There were a group of Jackson State alumni and a group. It was mostly, I think, the South Carolina State Hotel, but the Jackson State band was in there, and there were some Jackson State alumni. And so, do we have that? Or I think we don't have that. But it was just a lot of energy between these two. So outside of the game, we had so much going on this weekend. We had the Band of the Year, ESPN Band of the Year, second year. And so the winners, congratulations to both of them. We had, in the Division I level, we had Florida A&M. They got back to Atlanta. It just wasn't on the football. It was on the same field. They did get back to Atlanta.
You gonna throw some shots?
Absolutely. They got back to Atlanta. Hey. Last year, Jackson State.
That's true.
Last year, Jackson State got back to Atlanta. It just wasn't here. And here they are. So there's hope for you, FAMU. I'm messing. Congratulations to them, and also congratulations to the Miles College Marching Purple Machine. They won in the Division II category, and I think there was an upset there because North Carolina A&T was number one all year. The Aggies, they like to claim that they don't lose in Atlanta. And it's been a while. I think it's been about a decade since they lost Atlanta. I think it was the 2014 Atlanta Classic. But the Blue and Gold Marching Machine finished second, and Virginia State as well. I don't know if you guys have got a chance to see it or not, but just talk about the band atmosphere, because there was also another band event that you went to last night, Josh.
Yes.
That was not the Band of the Year.
Yeah, so I went out to go see Jackson State go perform at Midtown High School. It was definitely a very cool experience because I'm not a big band guy. I always wanted to be in the band, but I play football, so I couldn't be in the band. But going out there to see how those kids really are in love with the band atmosphere, the band culture. As soon as JSU walked through, there was people sitting at the top. They started rushing down to the bottom of the bleachers to get their phones out to record. And it was just a very cool experience to see. You have the game, you have the tailgate,
Right.
but then you got the band culture that is very alive and well. And so I went out there to Midtown High School, and they went to go play a couple of songs, do a little performance, and then also they had some other schools, not just Midtown High School, but it was some
other high
other
schools,
schools in Georgia that had some band students that come out as well, and they all came together and performed neck.
Yeah.
All together, JSU and all the other Georgia high schools, and it was super, super cool.
Yeah.
It was a very cool moment, and I think we have it up on our YouTube page, so if you guys want to go check it out, definitely go check it out. It was definitely something that I definitely enjoyed. From, like I said, I wasn't in the band, but I always wanted to be. I love hearing the bands. I love hearing the songs. I don't know what's good. I don't know what's bad, but what I will say is the Sonic Boom brings the boom. I will say that. They definitely bring the boom.
Absolutely. I didn't get a chance to attend either of the band events, but specifically of what you were talking about, that combined version of Net. I saw a clip of that on social media, and I literally jumped like that the first time I heard the first note of Nick. And I said to myself, like, that's the Boom and some other really, really talented high school band members that are like really serious about the band culture. And I'll say this, as a person who marched in the band in high school, totally different from college, by the way, but you have to be devoted to what you're doing. Right? I mean, it's so much work that goes into, you know, playing in field shows, you know, learning the music, learning the songs. If you're in the drum line, like, you know, you have additional things on top of learning different parts for songs. You learn different cadences, different rudiments you have to learn. It's always constant practice, you know, from a drumline standpoint, constant practice with, you know, your sections, whether you play clarinet, tuba, saxophone, you know, you name it. It's a trumpet, all these other trombone, all these other different instruments. So you have to be committed to the craft to want to be able to do it, and then to play on any HBCU band, whether it's North Carolina A&T, Winston-Salem State, you know, from right here, Jackson State, FAMU, Southern, Texas Southern, Tennessee State, any of those bands, and I left out so many, you have to be committed and dedicated to the craft.
And not only just that, like, what you saying, like, you heard the first note and you jumped.
Yeah.
It shocked me because they practice with their section leaders for maybe 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 10 minutes. Yep. And I went around, it's a video on our Instagram, actually on HBCUGameday. I went around and I recorded everybody, from the trombones to the tubas to everybody. It took them kids just like that for them to learn it. And then once they did it, they practiced it one time, like on a low level. Then once they started cranking out, I was like, wow, this sounds good. This sounded good.
Yep.
Yeah, just really great. So that event was great. Again, I was at the Band of the Year, and you know, just really great. A lot of times you don't get I think the great thing about the Band of the Year, not only do they get a chance to give the bands some money. The bands that got here were, you know, financially compensated, but they also so that they're going to invest in their programs. They also get a chance to. It also gives them something to shoot for. For years now, since the Celebration Bowl has been there, it's been something where you hear the teams and the players say, we're going to, like the teams that go in the MEAC SWAC Challenge, they always say, we're going to start in the A and end in the A. And all of the 10, rarely has it happened.
Right.
Rarely has it never, I believe. It's never happened.
Yeah.
But, you know, rarely does it happen, but they have something to shoot for, and you get to hear the stories, and, you know, you got to see the emotion last night. You know, I know we're used to Battle of the Bands where no winner is declared, and, you know, everybody can feel like their team won. This actually gives out a trophy. There's controversy around it.
Oh, yeah.
Go figure. You know, people have conspiracy theories about whether or not their band is, you know, whether it's certain styles that they're looking for, whatever, even though all the information's put out there.
Right.
But it was just great to see like everything we saw today with the football thing. There wasn't confetti coming down, but the bands were obviously very excited. You know, you look at a school like Miles. I think the great thing is the MEAC SWAC Challenge and the Celebration Bowl. Those are MEAC and SWAC specific, but the Band of the Year, what I really enjoy about that is that gives the band students, not only in the MEAC and SWAC, but also in the CIAA, the SIC, and some of the other places, it gives them a chance to, you know, have something to shoot for, and have a happy ending. So yeah, I really enjoyed that for sure. As we just kind of look through some of these comments, you know, we have people saying that the cramping is also strength and conditioning. South Carolina State may not have taken the condition and treatment serious enough. I don't know if they didn't take it serious enough, but
I don't think so.
Maybe-
I definitely think they took it serious. It had been a situation of the fact that they just truly hadn't played in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as you just kind of alluded to when you said practice, it's just like practice and game time play is totally different. Two totally different feelings. Like, you know, that rush of energy that you get for playing in a game, you know, versus, hey, I'm just going to my everyday practice at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. It may be intense, but it still doesn't fully prepare you for a real game scenario.
Especially with all the adrenaline build up, all the trash talking in the pregame. Because I don't know if y'all heard it, but it was a lot of trash talking going on in the pregame.
I wasn't down on the field, but I can only imagine what it was like.
It was a lot of trash talking in the pregame. That stuff only amps up your emotions and your adrenaline. So whenever you get out there, you want to make that play. So you're going 120 miles per hour sometimes.
Exactly.
And so with the cramping up and stuff like that, it was definitely something shocking to see. And I think it allows to you saying, you know, them going on Thanksgiving break and going home and sitting down for a while and then, you know, having to get back up to game speed and maybe take them a quarter, maybe take them a half to get back into the flow of it. But I mean, let's just be honest. The mailman is not going to sit here and let that team be not conditioned. They was I feel like he prepared them.
He did. I mean, I can't imagine a world where Chennis Berry doesn't prepare his players for a game.
Come on.
I mean, if you were in the press conference on Friday, my gosh, and Steve was here. Steve was there as well. Like, just the way he talks. I mean, if you don't get motivated and encouraged to go out and run a halfback dive, or, you know, from a situation of like, I'm about to take a jet sweep or something like that, or I need to make a tackle on somebody, I don't know what will motivate you. I mean, because he is the signature motivator for his players. If you ever wanted a coach to give a strong motivational speech and also finding a way to get his players to buy into what he's saying, Chennis Berry.
yeah, and we got a comment from Miss Hattie Ross. She's putting this in here at least twice, so she wants us to make it be known. In the words of Irv, I ain't never seen a bulldog beat a tiger.
He did say that.
That's true. He did.
He said this is not Animal Planet.
Yeah.
Now we have seen a bulldog beat a tiger, but it didn't happen today. Again, Jackson State dominated this game 28-7, taking down MEAC champion South Carolina State University to win the Celebration Bowl, likely claim the HBCU national title. Wilton, I know we talked about it yesterday, but just, you know, on a night where pretty soon we may see a former Jackson State player, Travis Hunter, win the Heisman Trophy. The last time, you know, we'll talk about it. We'll come full circle from the last time Jackson State was here.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders leaving, Shedeur Sanders leaving. I mean, those are two of the top players in America leaving the program, going somewhere else. T.C. Taylor had to bring in like 60 different transfers just because of everything that happened. Just talk about what this night means for the Jackson State program that had to really do an about-face and rebrand itself.
Steve, when I saw a lot of Jackson State fans excited when I was standing on the field as the confetti was falling down, they were really, really excited. And you almost have to be really happy for them, or not almost, you can only be happy for them because I was at that game when Jackson State won the SWAC championship in 2022 before coming to play North Carolina Central. And everybody knew, you know, Deion Sanders was leaving. Everybody knew Deion Sanders was leaving. Everybody knew that Travis Hunter was leaving. And obviously, of course, Shedeur Sanders and Shiloh were leaving. And the amount of hope, because we didn't know at the time if TC was going to be the coach. Of course, later on that night, Coach Sanders would announce and say, hey, I recommend TC Taylor for the job as the next head coach to be at Jackson State. There was a lot of doubt. But I can remember walking out of Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium at that game, and there was just a sense of like, people were excited about Jackson State winning that SWAC championship and coming to the Celebration Bowl, but it was a lot of uncertainty. It was like, well, what's next? Who's going to be the coach? Of course, you had these, you know, high-powered figures, you know, former players that people thought was going to become the head coach, and then it became TC. And TC, as a coach who I've had several conversations with, he has always wanted the Jackson State job, even going back to the days from John Hendrick when he was an assistant under him. And honestly, even before Deion was named coach at Jackson State, he wanted to be the head coach. But obviously, he waited his turn, and he got the opportunity. But needless to say, the job of rebranding and rebuilding what Jackson State football looked like, because everybody said, you guys saw the conversation, Jackson State will never be the same again because Deion Sanders built this program and he took all his players away. You know, TC was a great player, but TC's not on the field. Like, how is he going to bring these players in? Like, what did he learn from Coach Prime? And they heard the noise. Like, I can remember, you know, last season when they were talking about, oftentimes you would see captions on social media and things like that from Jackson State's social media team. They would say, we heard the noise. We hear what people are saying. And TC just did the work. He did the grunt work, whether it was, you know, hiring a new staff last year into the 2023 season. You know, at the time, he wasn't calling plays in 2023. He had an offensive coordinator. You know, bringing in new players and new recruits after, you know, the 60, 70 plus players left the program. And granted, you didn't know what it was going to look like, but if you had known, if you know the history and tradition of Jackson State football and you know the kind of tenacity that a coach like TC has and the player that he was on the field, you kind of knew that that tenacity was going to eventually be embedded in his players. And so that carried over. Granted, he didn't get to where he wanted to get last year and he didn't shy away from it. And I remember having a conversation with him coming into the 2024 season, and he kind of laughed when I asked him this question. I said, you know, in such a way, I asked the question. I was like, you know, you kind of scared of going 7-4 because 7-4 coaches at Jackson State don't always retain jobs. Like his own coach, one of his former coaches, Robert Hughes, went 7-4. This is my childhood, and he got fired. You know, and granted, there was other things to that too, but he had a winning record at 7-4. And for TC, he knew that he didn't want to be like that. I can remember him saying in the beginning of the season that he wanted to get back to Atlanta. He built this team for December. And as a person covering Jackson State, the SWAC, and the MEAC and HBCUs in general, you look at that from a standpoint of like, okay, well, all coaches say that. You know, will they actually get there? We'll have to see. After several, you know, games throughout the season, you start telling yourself, okay, with the players they had, Irv Mulligan coming back into the mix, Travis Terrell. I mean, my gosh, like that touchdown.
Electric.
Oh my goodness.
Electric.
Like, you know, players like that, the defense, on the defensive side of the ball, the players that they have, Jacoby and Morgan, you know, essentially kind of taking that next step this season from, you know, last season. They had all the right pieces. It was just a matter of could they put it together. And so with the coaching staff that he had this season that he brought in, Coach Taylor calling the plays, you know, offensively as opposed to having an offensive coordinator, it worked out when it was supposed to work out. And so now they're champions, and, you know, it doesn't stop there for them.
You talk about having all the right pieces. We got all the right pieces here as we close this thing out. Again, Jackson State, congratulations to JSU, Coach TC Taylor and his program. They have put off a 28-7 win over MEAC champion South Carolina State, the SWAC, now inching just a little bit closer, just a little bit closer to the MEAC, now 6-3 overall. I appreciate both of you guys for hopping in and fighting that traffic from being down on the field to getting right here. We got Wilton Jackson, you know, you see him everywhere, you know, doing his thing, writing, talking, and we appreciate him. And shout out to my guy Josh here. You've seen his work many times on our platforms. You don't see his face a lot, but obviously he's got a good face for TV, and also, you know, he can talk for sure. So, you know, for myself and the rest of the crew, we appreciate everybody for tuning into this show and supporting HBCU Game Day from start to finish. We're just wrapping up our 13th season of football, so really excited. I really appreciate everybody who tunes in. Shout out to everybody in the back, TC, Simone Stanley, and just everybody
Shout out to Simone, man. Shout out to Simone.
And everybody that's elsewhere helping us cover as well. Wally, Kobe, everybody. I don't want to miss out any names, but I just want to say I appreciate you guys for what you do, and it's a blessing to be here. And
we appreciate you too, Steve, for all the work that you do, writing the articles, you know, getting into it with people in the CIAA about Winston-Salem State and why they need to do A, B, and C and all of that. We appreciate it all. I had to put it in there, man.
Well, you know, I have been known to, you know, engage time from time. So, but again, appreciate everybody. Have a happy holiday season, and we will see you guys on the flip side. Why don't you give love on Christmas Day?
Bro, I be doing the same thing sometimes.